Welcome everyone to this week's Founder Chats. This week we're talking to Tom de Haas, who is the co-founder and COO of Interface Fluidics. I know I haven't got to meet you yet. You have met with a couple of our advisors here at Volition, with Colin and Mira, I believe, over the past, I think it was like since October 2020 kind of thing, working with them through the E-RIN Coaching Program, which is fantastic. But I haven't actually got to personally meet you or really learn much about Interface Fluidics aside from what I've seen, from what they talked about, and from what I've seen from your website. I am very excited to learn more about this. My understanding of what you do is very basic, I would say. So I'm excited to understand more about how understanding how fluids behave underground, how that will impact decision-making processes and lead to more environmentally conscious ones. So if anyone's not familiar with Interface Fluidics, this is a company that makes extreme condition fluid analysis quick and accurate and accessible in the energy industry. So obviously I was reading that from something over here because it's new to me, and I'm sure you're going to explain a lot more about it to us. But if you're also new to Volition and Founder Chats, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks to everyone who's joined us here, whether you're joining us here live or on IGTV or YouTube later. My name is Melanie. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners at Volition, and we build connectivity and connections, and I said connections twice, capacity, connectivity, and knowledge in global startup ecosystems. And we launched these Founder Chats a year and a bit ago during kind of the launch, or the, when COVID started and kind of took off, and we wanted to be able to get to know and connect with the founders in our community better and get to showcase the incredible work they're doing. So I've been able to talk to 35 plus founders this way, which is great. So essentially we'll have a 30-minute kind of casual interview style conversation. But those who are joining us live, feel free to ask questions and comment and say hello. I've seen a few of you had come in. I've seen some emoji thumbs ups and such. So make sure to keep that coming and ask questions and such. So Tom, without further ado, I'd like to pass this over to you and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of the origins of Interface Fluidics to start with, and then we'll dig into a lot more around your entrepreneur journey, around your vision for Interface Fluidics. Lots and lots of good stuff we can get into in 30 minutes. So over to you.
Sure. Yeah, so my background is that I'm a mechanical engineer by training. So I went to school just west of where you all are at, in Victoria, University of Victoria. And then I went to grad school in the University of Toronto. So my roommate in University of Victoria was Stuart, Kinnear, and one of my professors there was David Sinton, and both of those characters sort of joined back in with me later on when I decided to found Interface Fluidics. So after undergrad, it was at University of Toronto studying microfluidic systems for energy. And basically, microfluidics is just engineered systems for manipulating small amounts of liquid around. So the ones that everybody knows about are pregnancy tests and diabetes test strips.
Right, okay.
Little systems for looking at liquids. And there's a lot of work being done by many really cool companies in the biomedical sector with microfluidics, but some of the challenges are that that technology is difficult to run at temperature and pressure, where more sort of heavy industry and energy applications take place. So at University of Toronto, my supervisor was David Sinton, who later became the CTO of our company. And while I was there, I was working on these designing microsystems for screening chemical additives in the oil and gas industry. And then as a company, we're also starting to look a lot into carbon capture and storage applications.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, after I went to grad school in Toronto, I moved to Calgary and started working at Suncor Energy, which is one of Canada's biggest energy companies. And there I sort of saw that there was a real market need for systems to test in order to pilot stuff in the energy industry. It's not inexpensive. It's sort of on the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars
Right.
scale, right?
Right.
So we, as at University of Toronto, we were building little systems to test these technologies before they went out to the field. And at one point, there was a $100 million project that was hinging on some results from this testing out in Toronto. And there was no companies in the world that were really doing this commercially. And so I
Right.
saw it as a business opportunity. And after doing a little bit of market research, we quit our jobs in 2016, me and Stuart, and got started on it. So we've been running since then, and lots of ups and downs recently with the COVID situation.
Right.
But yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay. All right. And so how does this work though? Like I was looking at your website and you're talking about again, like being able to help make people or make these help companies make better decisions for the company itself, for these projects, for the environment. How does being able to understand what's happening with these fluids underground, how does that help? Yeah, just in like
Yeah.
in
So
lay people's terms, what are we talking about here?
yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of ways that we help out in industry. So one great example is that currently with the huge push to reach net zero by 2050,
Yeah.
there's a big transition underway in the oil and gas industry to start to use more carbon utilization technologies, or like CO2 enhanced oil recovery, they're calling it.
Okay.
And in order to do that process, you need to make sure that the CO2 interacts with the fluids underground in a way that you want it to.
Okay.
And the current test for that takes about 3 months and costs tens of thousands of dollars.
Right. Okay.
And we developed a way to do that same test with a 100th of the fluid sample in a few days. And so that's what we're working on, tests like that, as well as more fundamental things like fluid phase behavior. What temperature are things a gas or a liquid, which are important for lots of folks. And basically, instead of using beaker scale stuff, we're doing it all on a microchip in Edmonton here.
Wow. All right. Okay. So since 2016, you've been doing, have you been like working on research and development? Like, where is your company at? What does that last 5 years, I guess,
Yeah.
look like for you?
It's been a wild ride. We started very much in a sort of consulting mode, because
Okay. Yeah.
as a little company, you need to find ways to get revenue.
Yeah.
And so we were doing anything that anybody wanted us to do. And we sort of did that for a while until we had a good amount of equipment and personnel in our lab. And we, especially Stuart, found that there was a real application of what we're doing in our very first application was in the shale oil world, to try to get rid of reduce the volume of chemistry that's being used by doing a bunch of testing with those folks. So we transitioned away from largely the oil sands world into that, and then business started to really pick up, and we went through a couple of these different startup accelerator programs. So one called Creative Destruction Labs, that's based out of Toronto.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
We went through the Calgary stream.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we also went through probably the most defining program was Techstars Energy. So they operated the first ever of their energy accelerator programs out of Oslo, Norway. So we were out in Norway for 3 months, which was a beautiful place. And so we got the chance to really figure out what our customers were looking for. And through that, we managed to find some investors as well. So we closed our Series A fundraise after that. And since then, we've been growing. And currently, we're at about close to 30 people with the company. And it's looking like we're going to keep growing at a good pace through to the end of the year here. So we're sort of out of hopefully, fingers crossed, out of the woods from this COVID thing, and growing again.
That's incredible. Congratulations on all of that. That must have been a lot of learnings along the way. And I am always curious when people come from engineering or science backgrounds and transition into entrepreneurship, was that always something that was on your mind, or did it really like come out of seeing this need, or and what was that transition like for you?
I think that for me, I would have been. I actually approached my bosses at Suncor and sort of had this as an opportunity and was like, hey, would Suncor consider doing this? I'd love to develop this technology here. And basically the answer was a hard no. And so I knew that I wanted to see a real commercial application of microfluidics. And so running a company was really the only way I could see of doing that.
Yes.
And I knew that I didn't have the business chops to do it by myself. So I made sure to sort of get my co-founder Stuart on board to help with the business development, or I guess to lead the business development and investor side of the company. And yeah, that's it. But as an engineer, I think that it's the hardest part has been sort of being able to let go of the hands-on day-to-day activity and sort of realize that if you have 30 people, you can't be in the lab every day turning valves and making things happen that way, and sort of being able to move into more of the management side. It takes a little bit of a different mindset to celebrate the wins of somebody who's actually doing the hands-on work, as be like, I helped that person do that, as opposed to doing it yourself.
Absolutely. And a huge learning curve, I imagine, and what I've found over the last couple of years at Volition as well is transitioning from doing all the things to helping other people do all the things is just like a whole new skill set. Like you're talking about, like learning how to celebrate wins, learning how to develop these teams, learning how to hire and what to look for, and all of these pieces is huge, a huge moment in the growth of your company as well. Yeah, really interesting. So what does the future look like for Interface Fluidics then? What's your vision?
So our vision is to be the company that really delivers data to the energy industry that enables them to get through this energy transition that we're really in here. And there's a big, huge change here in Canada with all of the oil sands players pitching 2050 net zero plans. The Norwegians with Equinor that we work with really closely, they're actually a little bit more aggressive, including the scope of the emissions from the tailpipe of cars or whatever as part of what they want to get rid of. But all of this, moving from what's known to what's unknown, requires a lot of information. And we intend to be sort of the brokers of that information, the people who are generating it and informing all these computer models on how new things will work in the field. Okay, so you're going to help inform that also. Does this also mean that you're going to help inform that transition to carbon capture, utilization and storage, and that side of things as well? Right. So right now there's not critical mass yet of pure carbon storage projects. Right. There's a few that have been going on, like Shell has a Quest project here in Alberta. There's a couple of big ones in Norway. Right. But as a business, there isn't enough business out there to just be doing the work for the carbon storage folks. Right. So we're going out there working on the carbon utilization piece, which is this CO2 EOR, as well as helping big companies make their current processes more efficient. Okay. Super interesting. Yes. I feel like I could just I just want to learn what's in your brain just to do with this in particular. I had a friend recently talking about
questions around carbon capture utilization, actually not even that, not even utilization, just storage, and like what place does this have in our future, and getting to those net zero targets, and like what can it be combined with, and there's so many questions, I think.
Mhm.
It sounds really interesting. I don't know if there's anything else just on that piece that you wanted to get into, or anything that you wanted to mention here today, even in particular for anyone here who maybe is not as familiar with carbon capture, and what role that could play in our future. I don't know. This is
Yeah,
me throwing this at you, so feel
I
free to
think
say
that
no, but
I think that in my perspective, what we need is sort of a good, robust market for selling carbon credits to people. From what I understand right now, there's not much quality assurance on knowing if you buy a carbon credit, has it been sold to
right.
somebody else already? How good is it? And one of the best types of a carbon credit would be to actually permanently get rid of that CO2 by injecting it underground.
Okay.
And there's a few companies now that are starting to pop up. Like I have a friend working at Carbon Alpha here in Alberta, which is a new startup company. And people like that, they're starting to do sort of the pure carbon storage work, but it's happening at a
Right.
very small scale currently.
Okay. Okay. So more to come.
More to come, I would
More to
say.
come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So this is a very long-term kind of um, answer, or way to help solve some of the problems that we're seeing today. It's part
Yeah.
of
Well,
the solution, and a long-term part of the
yeah.
solution.
And
So I think,
energy systems in general, they transition very slowly. Like
yeah,
the move from burning wood to burning coal took 50, 100 years, moving from coal to natural gas and oil, right? It's
yeah,
another big switch. And then
yeah,
moving from uh, oil and natural gas onto other technologies is also going to take some time, right? So
right.
finding efficiencies in that is there's a big market there.
Right. Okay. Working with what we have right now as we continue to transition.
Yeah.
Yes. And interface fluidics sounds like you're working in both spaces, that kind of what's happening now, what's happening in the future, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. So we've learned a little bit more about what interface fluidics is, and where you came from, and what your vision is. And obviously you've learned a lot along the way. So are there any tips that you would have for entrepreneurs in our audience who may be just starting out, and maybe they're working in the same industry that you're in, or maybe not?
Hmm. I would say that the things that have gotten interface to where we are, there's a few key pieces. I would say that finding co-founders that you really trust and that you can get along with over the long haul is super
Yeah.
important, because there's a lot of hard decisions that have to be made. And if you're in a room with people you don't like and you're having trouble with them,
Mm.
it's going to fall apart really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The other part that has really I guess been our friend and our enemy since we started was sort of communication. There is communication. So how to effectively communicate what you do to people, and knowing sort of what their level of like experience in the industry is, and how what yeah, so like what that stakeholder is interested in. So for example, we would talk a lot differently about interface fluidics to uh, investors versus customers versus potential staff members
Right.
versus like PhD students when we're at a conference, right? And so
Yeah. Tailoring
knowing
the
how to do
message.
that
Yeah.
is hard. It's really hard. And
Yeah.
it took us a lot of failing along the way to get to, we're still not amazing at it, but we're better than we were 5 years ago.
Awesome. Yeah. I know you've been working a lot on your website and language there, and learning about marketing and all of these
Mhm.
pieces. It's a ongoing journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Volition's been really helpful with getting we we had a gap in our marketing person left the company, and we had to really scramble in order to figure out how we're going to communicate the new technologies that we're working on, because like I was saying, we were in this transition between a pure focus on the shale stuff in the US now into more of a broader scope of work. And how do we communicate that on our website, through social media, through internally to the company, and keep the language consistent, and building brand guidelines and making sure that nobody's putting the logo out there in brown or whatever. And, so,
I know.
but yeah, Mira was super helpful with helping us scope all that out, and also in helping us hire our new marketing coordinator.
Right. Yes. Shout out to Mira. I don't know. I'll send this to her afterwards so she can see. Yeah, she's fantastic. But so important. And I feel like, again, like when you have those like transition points and the growth points, you have to revisit those things. And when you're just starting, you don't think about like, how important is it really that my brand is in different colors in different places? But like trying to create that consistent message visually as well as through your language, so important. And I think really incredible tips from you. I mean, you've been around for 5 years now, and like I love what you're talking about with having co-founders and a team that you want to be around and make difficult decisions with, and respect and trust and all of these pieces is very important for that long-term kind of stability and relationships that you do need for these kinds of businesses. So really appreciate your tips on that for those who are watching this. Very difficult to learn how to craft your message, made a lot more easy when you have a team that you like to work with, and that you can make these decisions like getting into accelerators and making those kind of adjustments and being agile is awesome. So thank you for your tips there. So I think another thing I was curious about was, what was I going to talk about? So you talked again about kind of that like visionary, and you just provided us with some incredible tips for entrepreneurs. So what are things that we as your community can do to support you and to support Interface Fluidics as you transition and grow?
Yeah, I think that for the general population, I think that the things that can be helpful is to just get informed about sort of what the energy landscape looks like, and like there's a bunch of different technologies that are currently being used in both the renewable space and in the oil and gas sector, and when I talk to folks, there's people aren't really sure how Canada produces what it does and the technologies that are being used. And I think that learning a bit about that is helpful. So you can have sort of a educated conversation with all of your friends about those types of issues. And for helping out Interface, I think that we have some great content on YouTube about what microfluidics for energy is, and you can sort of take a look at that. And I guess unlike lots of consumer-facing companies, we've got like probably dozens of potential customers that are, as opposed to millions, right? We're mainly aimed at the reservoir engineering people within large, medium, or small energy companies, and that's a pretty niche group. If you happen to be one of those people, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to talk with you further about what our technology does and how it can help you out. But in general, I think just check out our YouTube page, and sort of you can get a sense of what our company does and how we provide information to companies.
Great. And so if you're talking about getting educated, which part of that's going to your YouTube page, I'm sure. And is it Interface Fluids or Fluidics for your YouTube? I don't have that on my list.
Interface Fluidics, yeah.
Okay, Interface Fluidics on that one, because I know that your Twitter is Interface Fluids, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, that was, I think that's a character limit problem or something.
Yeah, probably, yes.
That's another pro tip is when starting a company, you can think about how hard it is to tell people your email address over the phone
Yeah.
because you'll be doing it a million times.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then Instagram, you're Interface Fluidics on Instagram though, and
Yeah.
interfacefluidics.com.
Yeah.
Is where people can learn more. But if people are wanting to have that conversation, like you were talking about, just learning more about the energy sector in their country and where energy comes from and the technology used, what would be, let's say in Canada, what would be a place that people could go to learn more about that? Off the top of your head, if you have any.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at, I guess a good place that just came out, if you're keen on this sort of energy transition work, there's the International Energy Agency, IEA, put out a Net 2050 report that is, it doesn't go into how all the technologies work, but it talks a bit about, it's not really a forecast, but like a roadmap for what it would actually take for the world to get to that net zero by 2050. And it talks about the role of nuclear, biomass, energy, wind, solar, oil, coal, all those different energy sources. And that's a good read if you're into the technical stuff. For learning about how the actual like for example, the primary process in the oil sands is steam assisted gravity drainage. To get a sense of how that works, there's you can pick up some content from the companies pages like say Suncor and Cenovus and those people.
Yeah.
If you want to learn about the environmental impacts of those different things, you could check out other sources too, obviously. But for learning just like how the core technology works, that'd be a good place to go, I think.
Okay. And is your company, you're based in Canada, you mentioned working in the US, but you've been over to Norway. Are you looking to expand out of Canada? Are you still in the US? So in terms of like geographic reach, because we have a global audience, if someone's like, I want to talk to Tom about something, then
So we've done business in Canada, the US, Norway, France, Oman, Saudi Arabia. We have a great group of investors over in Oman.
Cool.
Because of the nature of what we do, small sample sizes and things like that, it's quite easy to ship stuff to us here in Edmonton. So we can really address global problems from our current lab. That being said, we do have a plan to expand to other countries. The mechanics of that has yet to be fully, I guess, made public. But we'll be putting our plans on how our global expansion is going to go out there over the next years and months, I guess.
Perfect. All right. Well, keep us in the loop, and we'll make sure to keep everyone updated. Otherwise, for everyone who's watching again, we're just about to wrap up here. If you have just joined us, hello. And never fear, this is going to live on IGTV and on YouTube. Typically within 24 hours, we have it on both of those places. So you can go back and learn more about Tom de Haas and then learn more about Interface Fluidics and where they came from, where they're going. Some tips for entrepreneurs that will all be on there. And if you want to learn more, and if you want to connect with Tom, and or with the company and specifically, make sure to go to interfacefluidics.com. But how can people connect with you if they want to connect with actually you, Tom? How do they do that?
Sure. Well, my email address is tom.d@interfacefluidics.com. That's probably the easiest way. I mean, I guess we have an Instagram account now, so you can you can connect with me via that. I'm not really sure how the mechanics work yet. I'll figure it
out. You'll get it. There's like a little thing that pops up and you know people have messaged you.
Perfect.
There you go. Let's help Tom out with his Instagram newbiness.
Yeah, I guess that's industrial fluids analysis doesn't really have a huge need for Instagram accounts.
Maybe not, but we can still like and share and comment and all the things.
Oh, absolutely.
And help your your company out just that way as well. So awesome. Is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you had wanted to mention?
Well, I think that the other thing that's helped us out a lot throughout the years has been that there's a lot of government support here in Canada for startups. We've used the Industrial Research Assistance Program extensively, which is a great resource to help fund the technical work that if you have a bigger team, you can usually get stuff done more quickly, and that program has been critical there. And then
help subsidize the
here in the province.
Cool. Yeah, the IRAP program that was just mentioned helps subsidize the cost of staff, whether contracted or employees, which is great for like R&D projects and building out things. So, and they also have mentors there as well, I believe. And there's like specific. There used to be. I don't know, speaking out of turn, but there used to be specific like green initiative programs through them as well.
They have a bunch of programs. I think maybe the one you're talking about is Green STEM. There's a program where if you're finished your PhD program, you can get quite a bit of funding, PhD or master's, to sort of kick off a new company out of your research.
Yeah. Awesome. I didn't know about that one. That's exciting. They keep changing things and whatnot, but it's always great to just reach out to them and to find someone there to talk to. So I'm happy that you were able to make use of that. That's great. And that you also had some provincial support too, because I know that Alberta has some great provincial support as well, such as the E-RIN Coaching Program, of course. So I always have one last question for you. My last question for you is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
I would say that the thing that's bringing me joy is that I've got two little kids here at home, and just brought them to the dentist this morning, and it was super fun, and so taking up like 1/10 of the chair, so it was kind of cute. I think that's probably number one on my list of things that brings me joy at the moment. Cool.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. It was really great to finally meet you and learn more about Interface Fluidics and your vision. I'm excited to stay connected with you and to continue to share what you're up to with our community. And for those who are watching, again, whether you're here live or later on, feel free to continue to comment and ask questions. We will make sure to pass along anything that we get for Tom onto them. And as per usual, I'll be here next week. So same time, same place. I'll be talking to Mike Zuri, founder of Painworth, another founder that I've not yet met. I keep meeting new people here, which is great. When we first launched these founder chats, it was all people that I was very familiar with or had come through our pitch events, and now I get to talk to some of the clients of Volition that I have not yet met. So it's very exciting for me as well. And I think that's it for now. Thank you again, Tom, for joining us today and for your first ever Instagram experience. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.